Now, HS2 and how it's affecting people. Work on the new high-speed rail link is just getting underway. Even some of the people not in its path are having to sell up and go. Lily Irwin and her daughter Lily, who's 19, live in War in Shropshire. HS2 will run very close to the village and for at least 4 years the construction traffic will drive straight through it. They gave evidence to a committee of MPs investigating the impact of the project and they spoke to me about it afterwards. Lily has a degenerative lung disease, cystic fibrosis, and she began by telling me how that affects her life.
It affects you quite a lot. You have a lot of tightness in your chest, which is exacerbated by the weather. It literally is just something as easy as that. And temperature changes can upset it. If it's a bit dry outside or if it's damp, it all can affect it. The main reason why we've always tried to live in the countryside is that we've tried to get away from as much air pollution as possible. When I went to university in September last year, you get freshers flu and all that. Everyone kept getting very ill, which in turn made me very ill because I'm more susceptible to those kind of things. I had to keep coming home every 2 or 3 weeks to have treatment of some sort. In January I had to drop out because it just continued to get worse. And then they found a bacteria in my lungs, which I probably picked up at university. So now I'm doing eradication therapy to get rid of it. It was getting to the point where I couldn't go more than a week without some course of antibiotics. And my chest was so tight, at times I felt like I couldn't breathe. And also long term, if you don't get rid of it, it means you can't get lung transplants or other transplants at all.
Which is what the future holds for you?
Yes.
Gaynor, tell us about the house you live in. Is it right in the heart of the village, right on the main road?
It's in the centre of the village and it's directly on the junction where the trucks are going to stop and turn right to head out of the village to where the construction site is. So we will have movements of 276 vehicles coming in and 276 vehicles coming out on average every day, idling at that junction waiting to turn. So HS2 are at the moment monitoring some of the air pollution. We have air pollution monitoring kits in our garden and also elsewhere down the village, because before Lily and I went to the select committee, they hadn't done any of this and they were just sort of taking just general guidelines and calculations they'd taken from other places. The actual construction hasn't started yet. It's due to start next year. Well, the trucks start rolling in about 2019, 2020.
Both you and Lily went to the House of Commons to give evidence before a committee of MPs. What did you want to tell them?
We wanted to ask them basically if they would ask HS2 to look again at the construction route they're using for these trucks, because we feel that they're doing a round trip of 28 miles a day each truck needlessly, and there are other routes and other ways of getting the materials and the construction equipment into those sites without using our local roads. We have quite a number of disused railway lines that could be either reinstigated or could be just used like sort of stoned over and turned into whole routes, and they could come in direct from junction 15, which would be about a 4-mile trip for them, whereas at the moment they're doing sort of 18 miles in and 18 miles out.
Lily, you also spoke to the MPs. How did you feel they received what you said?
I feel that they understood where we were coming from, and so they did say, something needs to be worked out because either I can't stay or they can't use that route. I don't know if they'll really do much about it, but I think they definitely understood where we were coming from.
Gaynor, the people at the new HS2 company, what have they said about it?
Because we insisted we wanted to go to the select committee, and the select committee have made certain recommendations. HS2 have since suggested to us that they would be happy to put in a helipad at the back of our house if we needed to get Lily to hospital urgently. Because earlier...
I'm sorry to laugh, but the idea that is a solution for any parent...
I know.
Feels absurd, doesn't it?
Our house is grade 2 listed. They've offered to delist it and put in triple glazing to try and insulate the building, but that would still mean that Lily couldn't go out in the gardens or anything in summertime. When we had a summer like we've just had, she won't be able to go out and enjoy the gardens because it might be too high risk and she might end up with an exacerbation. If she ends up with an exacerbation, she had one earlier this year in March, it resulted in a blood vessel being punctured in her lung and she began to drown in her own blood and we had to rush her to hospital, and we only have a certain amount of time to do that, and we feel that with all the construction traffic we might not get there because it runs the route that we would use to get to hospital. They've also offered to move us temporarily They would rent a house for 4 or 5 years and we just move out, and they'd lock up our house and put security on it and we just move out. But we don't really feel that sort of disrupting life for 4 or 5 years somewhere else and then moving back is realistic. The final suggestion of the select committee was that if all else failed, then that they should just move us permanently, and they would have to buy our home, which wasn't our intention. Was just to try and flag up that there are different other ways of getting your construction traffic, to these points.
Because you don't want to sell, I'm guessing.
And we don't want to sell, really. We live there for a reason. It's close to the hospital and we have good access. It's a great community we live in, and we didn't really want to have to up sticks and move. And to that end, at the moment, we've started viewing cystic fibrosis units throughout the country. We've already been to see Nottingham. We have to go and see Papworth, Liverpool, Heart and Lung, Wythenshawe. And we're just going to see what other facilities are out there if we do have to move.
Lily, what would you say to people listening who may feel very sympathetic to your plight, but would say that, one person, one family can't stop a project as big as this?
Even I've thought that, but it's not just one person. There's more people with CF up and down the country who may be affected by it as well. But there's other conditions like asthma, literally anything like that, and having trucks idling, all the dust that they're going to be moving. It'll irritate a lot of people. When there's other viable options, it's definitely something they should perhaps reconsider.
So the HS2 people, Gaynor, just to be clear about it, they've offered you as a family lots of options, but they haven't offered to reroute the traffic in the way that you want. Why not?
Money, financial restraints. They just say this is the cheapest way to do it and this is what they're doing, basically. And really it's just not negotiable. And we're trying not to kick the can down into other communities, and we're trying to sort of seek solutions that take it off roads completely, get it into on all railway tracks or whole routes so it's away from people, and the people will still have the access and be able to lead their lives as normal. And a few MPs finally are waking up to this, I hope. But yeah, something needs to be done. Somebody needs to wake up to it.
That's Gaynor and Lily Irwin.